So anyway, let's move on to our first guest. She is a diversity and inclusion expert. Very apropos right now.
Very important topic right now.
Yeah, so let's welcome Tiara Bud Ramos. Are you there? How you doing?
Hi, Tiara.
Hi,
Hi, thank you
Julia.
for
Hi,
joining
David.
us. Look,
Thank you.
right now, I want to get straight to the most important question on a lot of people's mind. How can people who are out there protesting or are speaking up online protect themselves from backlash at work?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, right? Especially when it comes to personal branding and your colleagues following you on social media, there's so many layers that go into this right now. We're such a hyper connected environment. I have colleagues who follow me on Instagram. I have friends who do the same with their colleagues. And so one thing that I would say when you're thinking about, backlash, it really does vary company to company. There's some people who are in roles and companies and have these titles where quite frankly, they aren't really allowed to speak out about some of these things. And that's just the reality of it. If you are at a certain level or you're at maybe a specific company, sometimes you're not allowed to give your opinion on certain things, or you must make sure that you preface it with these views are my own, so that that's not tied to the company. But I would say when it comes down to backlash and when it comes to protests, it really varies company to company. So for example, I have friends who have marched with their managers, and then I have some who block their managers on Instagram so they can never see what they're up to. So I think that's something you have to take into mind. There's a few factors. What is your role in the company? Is it a high visibility role? But when it comes down to it, you don't want to be silenced. And so that's the most important thing. If you feel as though you're with a company or part of a company that doesn't necessarily align with your personal views and your values, that's something that I feel as though you have to really reflect about, because when it comes down to the things that you want to do outside of the workplace, that can obviously get back to your corporate or your startup, whatever the case may be, the space that you're a part of. And so the most important thing for me is to make sure that I'm not silenced, and I want to be a part of a company that is proud of what I'm doing and aligns with the things that I am speaking out about, because that's really important to me.
So this is sometimes a tricky landscape to navigate for everyone. How do we know that we're saying the right thing with the right timing? How do you demonstrate that you're an ally without, turning off half of the country, since we're so divided?
Yeah, I think it just really comes down to, again, where does your values lie? So not everyone is going to be happy with what you say. That's just a given. You could post dog photos and someone could say something, crazy.
I don't like that breed, right? Yeah.
Which is obviously, that's a little bit more lighthearted. But when it really comes down to, I think when it comes to these companies and when it comes to you and your own personal brand and your voice, what really matters to you? What do you want to make sure that you make a stance on? As I've said before, silence is a stance. And so if you're not speaking out about some of these injustices and the things that are happening in America and around the world right now, what does that mean? And what will that do for the future, whether it's on your end or for the company side of things?
Yeah, see, Tiara, a lot of brands, organizations, companies, right now, they are taking social media or whatever avenue outlets they have to speak up against the current situation. Yeah. How do you, as a, follower of some brand, distinguish, are they saying it because they genuinely believe it, or they're just posting because they think they have to?
Yeah, and that's actually something that my friends and I have been discussing really recently. And it's something that we all have to think about, right? So we're seeing, I don't know about you, but my LinkedIn feed was crowded last week, or this week in particular. I was seeing so many of the same similar type of posts, standing in solidarity and, Black Lives Matter. And this is important too. I did enjoy seeing some of these posts, but what I really care about is what is the action that's happening behind these posts? Because eventually this post will disappear from your feed, but these issues aren't going away. What are you doing long term to make sure that your company is actually really genuine about these things that they so-called care about right now? So what I really like to see is what is the action that's being taken beyond today, beyond tomorrow, beyond next week? What are we doing to make sure that we are fostering a sense of inclusivity in the workplace, that your Black employees feel as though they have a safe space to talk and vent and come up with solutions with their white counterparts? Because the ownership doesn't fall on your Black employees. It should really be your white counterparts, your non-Black counterparts coming to you and speaking to you and leading with empathy.
Yeah, Tiara, it's really funny you mentioned that because I had a friend who posted something. I won't disclose the company, but it's my health insurance company. And they're basically garbage. I mean, and they're, they deny my claims. They've made my life a living hell. They're doing it for millions of Americans. And they were doing what everyone else was doing, standing up for doing the right thing, et cetera. But I think they're not a great company. So, how do we balance these issues? It's great that they have great diversity and inclusion programs and that they're doing the right thing, but they're not a consumer-friendly company. And I imagine they insure millions of Black Americans as well. So how do we distinguish between great corporate culture and, being a good business?
And that's where the receipts come in, right? So we have the receipts. You have the receipts on your insurance company being trash. So them donating X amount of dollars or them posting about these things on social media, what does that really mean? And what does that mean further down the line? Just posting about it today and standing in solidarity and hashtagging Black Lives Matters, there still needs to be more. Are there going to be things and policies that might be changing internally for the company moving forward? Is there going to be training and experts and people brought in to have these uncomfortable conversations? Be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because this is what we really need right now.
Change is uncomfortable, isn't it, Tiara?
Yes, it is. It is. But we absolutely need to be having these conversations. And David, like you said, you have the receipts. You know that this company is garbage.
Yeah.
So how are they going to actually change some of their policies and some of maybe the politics of the things that they're doing internally to change your mind? Because you can't just trust a post on LinkedIn and on social media and on Twitter.
Yeah, well, Tiara, thank you for being a part of this important conversation. All the best to you and your family.
Come into the studio once you can't be in the studio. Yeah.
Yeah, you're always invited. Yeah. Thank you.
Take care.
What an important conversation. Yeah, I think change is uncomfortable.
Of course it is.
And all these topics are super touchy.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. So, and I don't think anyone
nobody has everything figured out.
No.
Which is why we
and for the business world, this is especially touchy.
I would say for a lot of worlds, including the business world.